there have been so many like bad ways of approaching this. The male loneliness epidemic is often framed in a bunch of different ways, and one of the most like sinister ways in which it's framed is in the like state mandated girlfriend kind of way. Like women should be more nice to guys. Women should give more guys the time of day. You see these like generalized statements made from like the insecurities of a dude posting on an incel forum where he's like, "Why won't these girls talk to me?" Like that, if that's the approach you're taking from it, then come on. And then there's this other approach that a lot of lefties take, which is really unhelpful, which is like, well, what if men were better? I mean, yeah, I get, what if everything was? That'd be great. It's just not very helpful. Like, you know, it is a skill issue answer. Um, I think I'm gonna do I want to like invoke the nuclear option on the edgy comparisons? You know, you can okay, I kind of don't, so I'm not going to. All I'll say is that like I think that you can thread a needle, you can like walk a line. You can walk a line where you acknowledge that we're not really talking about like the way we treat each other individually, but rather the expectations we have for one another as a group. Maybe I'm a little bit more vitriolic than I intend to be sometimes, and I think a lot of that is because I'm making the same projections that I'm now criticizing in this moment, where I see people online whining about how men are mistreated, and I'm thinking with the knowledge of a 30-year-old man, like, what are you talking about? But I remember how I thought back when I was 15, so there's a decent chance they are, or like, I don't know, a bot. I really don't want this country to go down the South Korea direction. I think that a lot of men are socialized to be dipshits, but to be fair, I also think that a lot of mostly straight women are pretty annoying to be around too. Maybe it's more of a heteronormativity thing, you know, for the most part, but that's a separate issue. I just see people talking about like the 4B movement in Korea as though it's aspirational when it's really reactionary. It's like it's like a religious school, like a you know, boarding school separate men and women kind of solution to misogyny. Like a men and women are just different and they should be kept in separate places because they can't get along kind of thing. It's reactionary, it's regressive, it's the opposite of literally every ideological goal feminists have pushed for. Now, if an individual woman wants to avoid men, you can literally do that. A man can avoid a woman as well, right? That's both, but that's their choice. That's totally fine. You know? I just think that sometimes people are framing the 4B movement, its logic, which is reactionary, and they're extrapolating from it like, oh, okay, well, if an individual woman is fine to keep to themselves, then a movement which is pushing for it is also good. And I don't think there's a good parallel there, to be honest. I feel like many young men have men suck told at them so much these days that misogyny is kind of unavoidable. Misogyny existed before the like 1990s sitcom obsession with having every character, like men being like buffoons and doofuses and everyone complains about them and make jokes about men or whatever. That being said, I do think that what as an adult feels like meaningless noise comes across to young men as much more significant than it might otherwise be. Man, I remember back when I was in high school sophomore year, I remember I was quite tall. I hit puberty at like 9 or something. So I grew very quickly. And I remember there was this comment, some lady in my grade, there was another guy in my class who was also tall, and we were very similar in height, and the lady made a comment about like she couldn't tell who was taller, but she thought the other guy was taller than me. Like we were standing back to back, and she said like, well, I think the other guy's taller. And I thought that was wrong. He just had more hair than me. Like he had taller hair. He had like poofy kind of curly hair, but no one was like flattening down our heads. And I, of course, have this hair, which means that I only have like a ½ inch, maybe not even a ½ inch of hair on my head, like going up. Whereas he had like properly like a poofy, like I was definitely 2 inches taller than him. Maybe an inch taller, maybe ½ an inch taller, but I was taller than him. And I remember being like upset by this because in the moment I couldn't protest because like we didn't all know each other well enough for people to go like putting their hands on our heads to investigate the height differential. But it would also make me look like a sore loser. And it's like, in retrospect, how much did this matter? Literally like less than not at all. I can't imagine anything in my life mattering less. The breakfast I had that morning contributed more to who I am today than that moment in like a meaningful material sense. But how much did that moment occupy my thoughts afterwards? A decent amount, kind of, which is dumb, but so are young people. I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to encourage the particular attitude with regard to like the way young men might perceive some kinds of social messaging. And again, none of this is intended to be a men have it worse, because I don't think that, you know, everyone, there's always people who email me and they're like, I think you really underestimated the negative social pressures women face. To which I have to say here preemptively, I wasn't even talking about them. And I don't think that I should have to spend 50 minutes listing, like, all right, everyone, feminism check. Let me list, like, every single woman who's ever been born before I can talk about men's issues or whatever. Like, let me, like, detail the Andrea Dworkin's theories on everything before I'm allowed to comment. I just, people do act like that, though. And you do this like every 2 minutes. It's pretty evident from the way that I talk that I've been subjected to a lot of hate and scrutiny over the 5 years that I've been doing this. And, you know, I think I thread the needle pretty well, to be honest with you. I think you're correct because I've also experienced that height thing. When you're a young guy with no real achievements, these biological characteristics are some of the only things you have to go off of. And it's almost like part of your identity to a certain degree. Yeah, 100%. 100%. God, why do you think young men, like, hyper-fixate on dick size so much? By the way, for those of you who don't know, and I'm not projecting when I say this, obviously I'm admitting to this myself, but this is the case for basically every young man. They're, like, how big is X? X big, relative size chart. Percentile, dick volume. Like, the amount of insane fixation on, like, engaging in, like, cock taxonomy that young men do, and the insecurity around it. It doesn't matter. No, of course it doesn't matter. But it's literally true. It's a joke right now, but like I guarantee you, majority men watch me. It doesn't always seem that way based on the VGG demographics, but that is true. I guarantee you, more than half of the people who are currently watching this, which would put it, what, I don't know how many people, like 4,000 people right now watching this, about half of the people watching this, minimum, at some point in their life were like weirdly fixatedly insecure about their dick size. It's totally nonsensical. It has nothing to do with, it's barely even like a consequence of external validation. It's just like a ambient social pressure, not even ambient social compulsion. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling. It's just like the psyche of a lot young men is, you know, they're fraught with, I guess, insecurities born of us not having a compelling narrative for them to feel confident over, and it means that they're easy to manipulate with negative narratives, and I think that we should be conscious of that as we talk about these larger social issues, and I am occasionally antagonistic.